Yo, what's checking, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Orange Bloods Texas Football Channel. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Anwar Richardson. And if you don't know what we're talking about today, you're probably not paying attention to the world of Texas Longhorn football very well. Quinn Ewers, 24/7, all the time, pretty much the rest of the week. Do us a solid before we get too deep into this video. Like it. If you want Texas to sign Quinn Ewers, like the video. Subscribe to the channel because we'll have updates throughout the week and the weekend. Leave your comments in the comments section and look, ring that bell, get notifications, all that jazz. Anwar, you broke the news earlier today on Orange Bloods that Quinn Ewers taking a visit to Texas this weekend. It's a pretty big development when we heard that Quinn Ewers was on the campus of Texas Tech this previous weekend and that they had his family came along and that Texas Tech had their new offensive coordinator in place to meet with him. It sounded potentially like a really scary situation for the Longhorns. My gut feeling at the time, and we even talked about this in our private Slack channel, Sukumel and I, that you need to get the kid on campus. Best case scenario, that would be the sign that things are good for Texas. Lo and behold, he's coming to town this weekend. It would appear to be fantastic news for Steve Sarkisian and his staff.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to do some digging and reporting on that and going into the recruiting world, which is not the world I always go into, but that's still reporting. And I would say that it is a good sign. I think there are positive signs. I think that if it was all about Texas Tech, I think all those questions would have been answered by now. I think he's had the opportunity to sit down with the Texas Tech coaches and have an opportunity to meet with them. And he knows everything that he needs to know. The fact that he's holding out and saying, okay, yeah, that's cool, but let me get to Saturday and let me see what Texas is about. Let me go ahead and meet the staff in person, go on the tour, like all those kind of things. I think it's an encouraging sign for Texas fans. And I don't like to get into the predictions or anything to that effect, but I would say if you want to be encouraged, it definitely looks, promising for a guy that, really, he eliminated TCU this week and basically is down to 2 schools.
Yeah, no. And look, I think getting him in this weekend when the Longhorns are going to have official visits on campus, when there have been rumors that Evan Stewart might make this trip with Quinn Ewers, that there's a lot of things on the table. I think one of the things that's really interesting is that there continues to be this vibe coming out of the Ewers camp, from pretty much everybody that's been reporting on him, that he would like to make his decision before the early signing period in the hopes of being able to impact recruiting. That's only going to happen at Texas. No offense to Texas Tech, but Evan Stewart's not peeling off of Texas A&M to go to Texas Tech. Look, maybe I'm wrong, but I think the elephant in the room with regards to using his power of sway to try to impact recruiting, he's not trying to impact the 3 stars that Texas Tech is recruiting. Correct. He's trying to impact the national top 50 guys that Texas is on the hook for. And there's only one place where Quinn Ewers can tip the scales in recruiting in such a way that it really matters. And, I think this bodes really well for Texas. There's a lot of other things in play here. I mean, NIL money, we reported yesterday on orangebloods.com, and it's been discussed that he has a chance when this is all said and done to be making NIL money that's on the same wavelength as a first-round draft pick in the NFL, which is really such a game changer. Because why would you go to the NFL necessarily if it was like I might be a 2nd or 3rd round pick? I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but if you were going to make 2nd or 3rd round money, but you were making 1st round NIL money, like it would give you reason to pause at the very least. This feels like it's setting up really well for Texas. Texas Tech will be able to potentially put him up in a very good NIL situation as well, where the money might even be in the same ballpark. But and I think that if you're going to be getting visits, you'd rather have the last visit than the first visit. So it seemed like a huge advantage when Texas Tech had him on campus over the weekend. And then he visits TCU on Monday, and Texas got an in-home visit with Steve Sarkisian. And then it felt like a decision was going to potentially be made before he would, before anything else would happen, that he might have a decision by as early as yesterday or today or Thursday. So, it was like, God, can Texas squeeze in something on today or Thursday? You know what I mean? Right before he makes a visit, he's held off on making the decision on Anwar until he visits Texas. And if you could draw this thing up, this is how you would draw it up if you were Texas. You wouldn't want to get the visit first ahead of Texas Tech. You'd always want to get the last word. And now that all this is playing out, it does. It feels very much like this thing's going to end up going really well for Texas. If your Rivals doesn't have future cast set up for transfer portal guys, but if they did, I would, at this point, future cast Quinn Ewers to Texas.
If I had to do one, and I don't have to do one, because recruiting's a bonus for me, right?
You don't even do it for fun.
For fun, like someone messaged me. I think it was Drunk Rando. He's like, "You're doing recruiting?" I was like, I just come in once in a couple of years for some big guys. Like that's
You're Charles Jefferson from Fast Times from Ridgemont High. We fly you in for the big games. That's
it. Like the Malik Jefferson, just the big ones just for that. And then I just go back among and do my business. There's some things, Catch, that, we have to be careful in our videos, which we're free. And then we also have Orange Bloods, which it's a subscriber-based thing where you get more inside information. I will
sign up for Orange Bloods today, by the way, if you're not on Orange Bloods, and
yes,
orangebloods.com. We'll try to get a free trial out. We had a great one that ended last week. We'll see if we can't create a new one. Maybe we'll make Ewers the promo code, and
I don't know about that, but let's do something. You could do mullet as a promo code, but
transfer.
Yeah, I will have something in the war room on Thursday. So just if those war rooms are inside edition, that would coincide with everything that you're saying as far as why you think Ewers is a Texas lean. I think I'm starting to believe that Ewers is a Texas lean for the things that you're talking about. There's more things that I'll get into on Thursday, and it's going to be when you're able to get this guy. And look, he goes on to Texas Tech, and that's fine, and he meets a couple of players, and then he'll be able to come this weekend, and he'll be able to meet Bijan Robinson, a guy who, oh, by the way, was competing for a Heisman Trophy up until about right around the time he got injured. You get a chance to meet Xavier Worthy, who was a freshman, pretty much 1,000-yard receiver. I mean, what was like 19 yards short, but you get to meet that guy, right? And then you get to meet some of the other players that you're going to be familiar with from a talent standpoint. Texas Tech doesn't have anything from an offensive weaponry standpoint that Texas will have to offer him. That they won't have that. They won't have what Steve Sarkisian offers as a head coach and as an offensive mind. You won't have that as well. Everything that Ewers would want is going to be at Texas. And if you say, well, what's the path to getting on the field faster? Catch, I would say that the quarterback room is going to settle itself if he decides to come. Like I think we can safely say someone's going to go to the transfer portal, whether it's Hudson, whether it's Casey. That thing, one of them probably ends up leaving. They've got a quarterback situation where if one of those leaves, like that puts him pretty much instantly at the number 2 guy, more than likely. You got Malik Murphy that's coming in. We can't overlook him at all. But he would be probably competing for number 2 right away, with the potential to either sit there and learn for a year and have several million in the bank as you're learning, or potentially, start in year one. If Sarkisian says, hey, look, I'm in a rebuild and I'm going to rebuild here, starting here. I mean, what better way to buy yourself a little bit of time if by saying like, hey, I got to start a freshman, and you know what, we're going to start with him, we're going to learn with him, we're going to grow with him, and because we believe he's the future. Everything that Ewers would want, Texas has to offer. If he goes to Texas Tech, it would be for something totally different, but everything, potential playing time early, NIL money, talent, all of that. I mean, it would seem to be a no-brainer.
I think if you were looking at the negatives, if there are any, it's clear that Texas Tech, from a personal relationship side, from my understanding, it's his mom that has connections to Texas Tech head football coach Joey McGuire. And then their new offensive coordinator is a guy that Quinn Ewers knows well from having, I think, worked out with him, or he knows him from the connections to Patrick Mahomes, who he's worked out for. So there are relationships that Texas Tech has an advantage in. I think the other thing is, if you're looking for a downside, there's infinitely more pressure to play at Texas. He's suddenly the face of one of the big bad monsters in college football, and it hasn't been good, but people talk about Texas. People watch Texas games, and if they lose, the whole nation laughs. So it's not an insignificant little detail that a quarterback of that magnitude comes in with a gigantic target on his back, that if, let's say, he doesn't start in year one, oh my God, is viewed as a catastrophe of sorts because it's Quinn Ewers, the former #1 quarterback in the country, kind of a thing. So those are the things that stand out from a negative standpoint, which is, if Ewers just wanted, look, the one good thing that he got besides money for not playing his senior year and going to Ohio State for a semester is that the clock on the NFL has already started. So when he comes to Texas, if he plays really, really, really well, he only has to play 2 years before he's eligible to leave for the NFL. Now, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but when you're talking about the #1 quarterback in the country, that's on his brain, clearly. If he goes to Texas Tech and puts up a bunch of yards and plays in a quarterback-friendly offense and knows the offensive coordinator and knows the head coach, the NFL thing will happen. I think he can get to the NFL as easily at Texas Tech as he could at Texas, as evidenced by the fact that Patrick Mahomes came from Texas Tech and he wasn't exactly a 4th-round draft pick. So if you can sling the ball, you can play for North Pole University and NFL teams will go after you. See Carson Wentz, right? He literally played at North Pole University. And that's what Tech has going for it. The thing that you mentioned, Texas has so many more advantages, primarily because, say what you want to about Patrick Mahomes' career, his NFL career is mattering a lot. His college career was insignificant. If you go to Texas, you have a chance for your career to be significant nationally in a way that's just different. With all due respect to Texas Tech, it's just different. Ewers knows that. The common sense thing in my head is the alarm bells are going off, right? Bijan, Xavier Worthy, the way the visits are lining up, the fact that Texas on paper stands to be immediately better, maybe not by a lot, but take quarterback play out of the way. You'd prefer to play with Texas, I think, than Texas Tech by a little bit. Records be damned. And I think that I don't want to say it would shock me. This would be, I can kind of end on this. I don't want to say it would shock me, but 25 years of covering recruiting, there are just protocols and signs and little bitty blinking alarms or whatever that I think point to some obvious things. And they point towards Texas right now. And this visit really cements it for me. I think there was some ambiguity to a certain extent 2 or 3 days ago. But now that we've hit this point where you can see the finish line, which your reporting is they would like to make a decision Monday-ish.
They hope to have it hopefully done by Monday. Sunday would be ideal, but what I was told is they would hope for it to be over with by Monday.
Because they want to make an impact in recruiting as best as possible. Yeah. I won't be shocked, but I'll be surprised if on Sunday or Monday you and I aren't doing a video on this channel. So again, subscribe and do all the stuff. Notifications. This might be the time more than any other. Boy. You might want to get the notifications, because I'll be really surprised if you and I aren't doing a video in the next 72 to 96 hours where the focus is on Quinn Ewers announces for Texas. And then we have a real conversation about it, what it means on a million different levels.
Yeah. It's one of these things that, you do this dance because you don't want to, everyone to screenshot and save it and it comes back and bites you in the ass. But at this point, we just got to keep it real. I think I'd be a little bit shocked just based off of my reporting and my conversations. I'd be a little bit surprised that if he went into Texas Tech the direction. To me, if that happened, somebody fumbled the ball on the Texas side in a major way that it should not have happened. But, right now, it doesn't seem that way. Right now, it seems that everything would be lining up for Texas's advantage. And to your point, the last visit, being able to have the last say. Catch this, I don't know if we have a list yet, but I know there's going to be guys who are coming on campus this weekend. And it's, this is, an important one with still a lot of different characters that are out there. So I would say, it looks good. We'll see what happens. But yeah, if we do an overreaction Monday, and we're talking about Quinn Ewers going to Tech, first of all, we should be allowed to use all of Rogue's products during that show. Like literally, yes. We should be able just to be like, let's fire this shit up right here.
It'd be like drinking, like all of Rogue's products are legal. So yes. It's like smoking a cigarette on camera. Like, kind of frowned upon. I think smoking's more taboo because nobody likes a cigarette in a room, but the Rogue products don't have to worry about that necessarily. So
no, anyway, I'm saying if that's the case, people are roguing it out on Monday, and we're just like, man, I don't know what happened, man. Our RIP to our mentions. But I will say, like I said, we'll have my final thing is. I have a little bit more specific things in Thursday's war room that I think Texas fans will really enjoy. And but again, we have to see. This is recruiting. Crazy things do happen at the last minute, so we got to put in our caveats. But for them to decide, like, hey, we're going here. We're going to visit Texas. It's going to be on a Saturday to a place that he's very familiar with a coach that we know he likes and respects a lot. Who, by the way, has a freaking resume of putting guys in the league, which we know is ultimately where he wants to go. Yeah, you're right, Catch. This place has a lot of pressure. Sam Ehlinger is in the record books. And still, when people mention Sam Ehlinger's name, they say, yeah, but he never won a Big 12 title.
There's always a but.
There's always a but. But only went to one Big 12 championship during his tenure, right? So there is that thing that's associated with it. The flip side is, if you win, then that's you are the benchmark, right? You Vince Young, you're Colt McCoy, like that's what you're known as. So the flip side is you come here and you're successful, you're legendary for the entire life. So let's see what happens. But all Ewers all the time, I'm down for it.
Just real quick, a shout out to you. I watched your face and your mind in real time as we talked about the word but. and then you were in the middle of a sentence where the word but was a natural fill in. And I saw your brain go, don't use the word but. And you said the flip side. It was a very smooth
Thank you.
little segue.
Thank you.
And I was like, oh, he's about to double butt and it'll be kind of weird. And you totally pulled it off. Like, from one professional to another. I noticed that. And people go back and watch the video. Just rewind it like 60 seconds and watch in like a 1/10 of a second him reverse course and not use the word but and instead say the flip side. It was a very smooth segue. Last thing I'll say, because you mentioned Monday overreaction shows. This reminds me of the Monday overreaction show that we did. And we don't have to go down the rabbit hole. I just wanted to reference it, where Sark, amongst his last Monday press conferences, we came out of one of those. And I think one of my big Monday predictions was on one week, it was like Casey Thompson's going to transfer. And the other was that there's going to be a new starting quarterback. It's hard not to think about the last couple, because my whole thing is, there's no way Texas hasn't known that the kid was going to be in the portal for a while. How long they've known, can't say. Maybe we'll never know. But you know that they didn't just find out last Friday. And it's hard not to think back to Sarkisian's comments about Casey Thompson and the quarterback position in general and the non-committal language that he used to talk about his guys. And we said it. I said it then. He knows who his quarterback's going to be. And it is not one of those two dudes.
You absolutely called it.
Maybe the things aren't connected at all. It's really hard not to think that something could be up. But look, I'm getting a message that my internet connection is unstable. So we'll wrap this up. Like the video, make your predictions in the comments section. We won't hold it against you no matter what happens. For myself and Anwar Richardson, thank you for watching the channel. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Later.